Okay, so now we get back to where we left off, and this is what we'll start by doing. Let's remove everything that is already like by default set up by React. Let's remove everything here. Remember, let's start by removing all that is there. Let's remove this. Just remove all these things. They were just there to help you, to guide you, but keep this one. And now we see an error. Why is there an error? Yes, like first of all, remember, any React component, it has to return something that is renderable. For lack of a better term, renderable is something that can be displayed. For example, these ones, they were renderable. Like this was a text view that was renderable. This maybe is a view, and then this is another section. Any component that you expect it to be displayed on the UI, it has to be returned from the function that defines it. So we are going to be using class-based functions. Function-based components. So there is difference. There is like function-based component and class-based component. So for us, we'll be using function-based. So it is so easy to write them. They have so many things that were there in the earlier versions of React. For example, the earlier versions, they had classes. The classes had states, but with the use of, for example, hooks, like you can create states for your function-based component. So you can just leave it like this, but then like others may want to like do something like this, export const, for example, and then you just return whatever needs to be returned from this, like that. So here is where we are going to be adding things. Remember one thing that is important. Even the app component itself is a component. That means you can have hooks, you can have states, you can have effects, you can have maybe selectors, you can have everything that you have. It's just a component. Only difference between the app component and other components is that this is a large component. That is the only difference. Like it's a large in the sense that it's the entry point. It is not different from other components in any way. So for us, like all we need to do for now, let's just return a view, for example, and then in the view we'll have a simple text, and that should be it. So the text itself, maybe let's give it maybe a refactor, like that. So we should see refactor. Now you may wonder, like, okay, is that it? Like, is that as far as it goes? Yes, actually you can just say, like, for now you just actually reset the project, preparing it for everything that is to follow. Now that part of preparing it for everything that is to follow is now what we are going to be doing now. One thing we mentioned was that the application, it needs routing. Yes, like we need to have routes. The routes are what decide like what will be displayed at what point in time, what will be shown at this, when the user is at this point. So you may wonder, like, how is it that it knows like what to display? What will happen if we add new routes? So for example, why is it not showing maybe the auth? Why is it not showing maybe the login? Why is it not showing even the user's dashboard? So we will need, in our presentation here, we will need to add a route. Yes, so we create a new file and then we just add routes, like that. So here, and I believe this one also is supposed to be routes.tsx, because it's a React component. Remember, even routes themselves, they are React components, or something that can be returned from a component. And then inside here is where our routes will live, because again, your app is one large component with sub-components that get displayed when a given condition is met. So in our case, like, let's export this. We just export const like app routes, and then remember, you must return something. You must return something for something to qualify as a React component. So in this case, our routes is a routes component, but you don't need to print to like append components here because it's a route. So here we will have, actually we'll be using React Native router, and we will install it in a few. So let's install that. Okay, so we will be using React navigation for handling our navigation. go to React navigation, and then in the home page, you just open the docs. First thing you need to install is React Native. So copy this, go all the way to your application, to our Visual Studio Code, paste that, and then hit enter. It will install it. And then as it installs, let's go back to, it finished. Then the other thing that you will need to install is this, like maybe you will need install dependencies into Bear React Native project. These are the dependencies. So you will need the safe area context, and you will need the safe React Native screens. So let's just also install these ones as well. Okay, and then it's done. Now let's continue. The next thing that you will need, just follow these instructions. If, for example, you are using it on iOS, now the other thing you will need is the React Native stack. So this one is what helps us create those stacks. Stacks are, I encourage you to continue reading more on this, because this tutorial that we have is not going to touch into the intricate details of navigation and all those details, but it's just a starting guide. So let's go to as well and install the native stack, and we will see how we actually get to use this. Okay, so all the routing that we need, all the routing libraries that we need are there. So let's go again once to our router. Now we have to create our stack, like we call it app stack, for example, just to match the scope. So we say use navigation native create native navigation, create native stack navigator. So this native stack navigator is what helps us actually to set up our routing. Now we begin by specifying it like this. So app stack, remember, it's a component. So if it's a component, it has to wrap something. So you need to do this, and then it's the app stack dot. You have three things. We have the group, we have the navigator, and then we have the screen. Navigator is what will manage like moving to and fro. Group actually is a really cool thing that makes it possible for you to actually group fields that should match a given condition. For example, you want to make sure that a user, they cannot be able to access maybe the auth page if they have already been logged in. You can group those pages behind the auth group, and then you protect them. And then the other thing is a screen. So you have the option to have the screen. The screen is just a very, very bare component where you are going to be displaying your content. So in our case, we begin with navigator, and then why is it complaining? Navigator expects that you put something here, and that thing that you put, it can be a group or it can be a screen. So if you hover, you will see that we expect to have something. There should be something inside it, and one of those things is like maybe app stack. We will go with screen like that. So we just close it like that because it's self-closing. And then, for example, when we look at our app screen, we see it's complaining why a screen must have something. When you hover on it, you will see that you need to specify a component, like you need to specify a route, you need to specify maybe a path. So for example, we say the screen okay, just a minute. So you need to specify the name of the screen. In our case, we have said we have broken our app into two views. For example, we have our auth, which will be the index, and also our user, which will be the index as well. So here we will break this one into the auth screen, and then you have to also provide a component. So the component goes here, but we have not defined our component yet for our auth screen. So let's do that now. We come and we say spot cons auth component, which is our entry point, and then here we just return auth a view. For now, just for testing purposes, we just return a view, and then we say this is a text, all this here. So and then the view, so we import it from React Native. So we will say this component is actually auth component, and then the error should go, and that should be it. So why are these linter errors? Why are we seeing them? We need to have React imported into this scope. So import React, yes, and all errors should go. When we save, all errors should go. Okay, now we have this already set up. Now how are we going to finally display something, finally tell our application, hey, this is the routes that you need to conform to, this is the path that you need to take? We come back here and then we just do this. Sorry, here we didn't return. We need to return. Yeah, so that is the error you are getting. Like, you always need to return something. You always need to return your view. Like, as I said, this is a component, it needs to return something for it to be displayed. So that's why we received that error. Okay, but then we are seeing another error. Like, why are we having this error? We have our routes, yes, but what is actually the guide? What is the navigator? How will the navigator know even how to maintain the state? If this was a browser, we have the navigation stack, like, that is maintained in the browser. But in our case, all we need to do is to say, like, native container, navi container, and then inside it is where we put everything that we need for our navigation. So we see, like, React Native stack header was not found in the UI manager. Okay, so we need to fix this error, and for us to be able to do that, we have to track it back. What is it really complaining about? We will see that one of the reasons is the React Native screens, and the reason it's complaining is mainly because of this part. So how are we going to fix this? Let's see. Okay, so with this error, like, that we have right here, this is the error, this is what is complaining. So all we need to do, we go to our build, Gradle, and then this is the file that we need to change. So here, depending on what will work for you, so this is one that I needed to fix. So maybe if you have another option, if you guys have other ideas on why or how to resolve this issue without updating the build Gradle, feel free to share. So let's try it once more. Let's go to Android, and then Gradle, we clean. Okay, so it seems everything is okay. So we go back, and then we run our Android once more, and then we should see this hopefully fixed. So yes, that is okay so far. Yeah, so far so good. And then you'll see all the other things that we installed, they are being added. So let me know a fix or a permanent fix that you can think of about the NDK error. It's good to share, so you can share and we can actually compare notes, and that way we get to learn and grow together. Yeah, okay, let's wait for this one to finish so that at least we get to the end of this session. Yep. Okay, so far it seems it worked and it's okay. And yes, so we have okay, good. So that's awesome, because now you see, like, we have our app navigator stack, and then the auth component is what was displayed. So how do we now customize? Because not all applications will need to have their auth fix. Yeah, so we look at that thing in the next step. For now, I believe that's it. Yeah.